I can't tell you the number of people who have asked me about speaker power, how much is the RMS power of the speaker, oh, the speaker isn't powerful enough for me. And the one question I ask them is, why do you care about power? And they always say, it's because I need a speaker that plays loud. And the example I like to give is always that of light bulbs. When I was growing up, we had halogens at home. And I remember how hot those bulbs would get within 5 minutes of running. And those bulbs used to be 50 watts and 100 watts. I remember the writing on top of the bulb. Today, we've switched over completely to LEDs, right? And LED bulbs are 5 watt, 9 watt, 12 watts. But do any of us complain? We don't, we're happier, right? Why are we happier? Because the LED bulbs have lower power and they're giving us the same amount of light. No one says, I want a 100 watt bulb. They say, I want a bulb that has X number of lumens. And if it consumes less power, the happier we are because we're saving electricity. The same thing is true for speakers. No one really cares about the power of a speaker. What you care about is how loud a speaker can play, and that has very little to do with power. Let me look at these two speakers. This is Heco Direct Premium, one of my favorite speakers, and this is the Klipschorn, another one of my favorite speakers. I'm completely unbiased. I like both brands. I sell both brands. This speaker has a power rating of 200 watts RMS. The Klipschorn has a power rating of 100 watts RMS. But no prizes for guessing which speaker goes louder. It is definitely the Klipschorn. And that's because the Klipschorn has a much higher sensitivity, and I'll come to what sensitivity is, than the Direct Premium. Coming back to light bulbs for a second, do you know why we say LED bulbs can produce the same amount of light as a halogen with less power? It's because the bulbs are more efficient. And what does efficient mean? They do a better job of converting the incoming electricity to light. That's why halogens used to get so hot. We would have to put in much more electricity to get the same amount of light, and the extra electricity, the 15 watts to 100 watts that halogens require, would be dissipated in the form of heat, which would be wasted. Similarly, a speaker that does a better job of converting the input signal to sound without loss of energy is a speaker that's more efficient, and those speakers need less power to sound as loud. How do you know how good a speaker is at converting electricity to sound pressure level? The spec you need to look for on the spec sheet is not power, it is a spec called sensitivity, and you'll see it in units of dB at 1 meter at 1 watt. Let me break that unit down for you. When we talk about loudness, we measure loudness as sound pressure level, which is measured in decibels. So that's the first number. Like the Klipschorn has a sensitivity of 103 dB at 1 meter at 1 watt. How loud a speaker goes also depends on two factors. It depends on how much power you put in. The more power you put in, the louder it will sound, and how far you stand from the speaker. The further back you go, the softer speaker sounds. So when we look at the spec, 103 dB at 1 watt at 1 meter, it means if you are standing 1 meter from the Klipschorn and putting in 1 watt of power, you will hear sound pressure level of 103 dB. For your reference, that is concert level sound. Cinema reference level is 85 dB. And a dB is not a linear scale. Every 3 dB is a doubling of perceived loudness. So you can imagine how loud the Klipschorn can go with just 1 watt of power. So look at sensitivity. That is the spec that will tell you how loud a speaker can go, and it has nothing to do with the power rating of the speaker. The other benefit, high sensitivity speakers, is what Paul Klipsch calls the law of inverse distortion, I think. It said as the sensitivity of a speaker increases, the amount of distortion that speaker introduces decreases. One of the reasons for that is the more power a speaker needs, the more heating that happens inside the speaker, because the power is dissipated as heat. The voice coils get heated, and that heating leads to distortion. With a speaker like the Klipschorn that needs minimal power, you have minimal heating in the cabinet, and the speaker can play loud and clean. So next time when you're looking for speakers, don't ask about the power, ask about how loud a speaker can go in terms of SPL, and ask about the speaker sensitivity. And you'll be able to pick your system much more easily and in a much more accurate way than looking only at power.